David Moore, Equity Advantage with Robert Smith of Peregrine Private Capital. We're having fun today. This is good.
We're having some fun today.
Yeah. So, one of the big the best suggestions people have for success in the investment world is what? Diversification, right? So I'm not, I'm a real estate guy, but obviously I've got to have my stock portfolio and all that stuff too. I think it's just wise to do that. But when we're looking at allocations or different products that are available for people that are maybe looking for some refuge, and I'll just put it, Sheila, okay, my wife, if I talk to her about going and buying some rental property someplace, she's going to go, no, we're not doing that. I don't want to deal with it. We're done. We did that when we were young, pre-kids, and that's okay. But today, for her to look at that, and honestly, I'm probably not that happy about going and rolling up my sleeves to go work on something either. But, so when we're looking at what is possible for people that are sort of looking at refuge, diversification, I mean, you've got sort of you've got this toolbox of potential investments there. And typically, if we're looking at, like, let's say fractional ownership or passive investments, we've got institutional tenancy and common properties that used to be the only way to get it done pre-DST. And then we talked briefly about the 721s. We've got QOZs or OZs, opportunity zones, qualified opportunity zones. But, for somebody that if they're coming to you and obviously we've had a number of clients recently that might be less concerned with the ultimate return on investment, more concerned with preservation of capital. But, we mentioned with 721, it's a great end game. But, so what do you sort of put out to somebody when you're meeting with them, and as far as setting their objectives, helping them understand what is possible, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Well, I think you're a wise man. Happy wife is a happy life, and I would never want to get on Sheila's dark side. No, that's not going to happen. Okay.
Smart man.
I know. No,
Smarter than I am.
No, I know your wife. Okay?
Yeah, you're married too.
It's interesting. That's a very good point, David, because most retail landlords own housing of some sort, whether it's single family home, plex, apartment building. Most of their portfolio, not all of it, but most of their portfolio is habitationally driven. And so that's why, even though multifamily is only the third best performing property type in terms of total return, according to NCREIF.
And once again, for everybody, so it's only third. What are the others?
The other, according to NCREIF, the National Commercial Real Estate Investment Fiduciary, and UpREIT, the National Associated Real Estate Investment Trust, the two top property types from a total return standpoint, the last 25 years, number one's been self-storage, number two has been senior living. And number three, multifamily is sort of in a, grudge match right now with industrial, because industrial came on very, very strong in the aftermath of the pandemic and everybody going online. But most people are coming out of some form of housing. And so for better or for worse, the majority of DST product available at any one time is multifamily. But we think, because they already have multifamily, and they're not selling their entire portfolio. They're usually selling bits and pieces of it. And so the fact that you've already got a very, very strong presence in the multifamily sector, we think the 1031 property sale and concomitant 1031 exchange gives you a great opportunity to diversify into other property types from a functional standpoint. Now, for us, that's primarily self-storage, senior living, that you probably don't otherwise have. So not only can you diversify functionally, but most landlords, unless you have a very, very big portfolio, tend to be pretty geographically specific in terms of their ownership, the Great Pacific Northwest, Portland metropolitan area, what have you. But it also, that 1031 exchange also gives you a great opportunity to diversify geographically, again, primarily into red states, which are more landlord-friendly and respect property rights and have usually a significantly lower regulatory burden and low or no taxes.
So let me ask you this, because I remember it's probably been 20 years ago now, but there were some offerings in Hillsborough, I believe, and you fully subscribed them in no time. So let me ask you this: when you've got somebody that comes in, if they are living in a certain place, and you said, "Hey, we've got this offering in that place," how likely are they to do that versus chasing yield in a red state, let's say, or going elsewhere?
A generation ago, they would have preferred to stay closer to home.
Yeah.
But fast forward, 20 years worth of unrelenting progressive government attack on landlords and their property rights in the Great Pacific Northwest, and 99.99% of the people we deal with want to get the hell out of Dodge and as fast as they possibly can. It's like any place other than the West Coast, not Washington, not Oregon, not California. I want to go someplace else. And just from a pragmatic standpoint, even back then, we encourage people to look at greater geographic diversification. Again, it's obviously, like we've previously mentioned, another reason why multifamily is the predominant asset type in the DST space is because most people considering using DSTs in 1031 exchange are selling some sort of housing, so they're already familiar, comfortable with that property type, and it's a much lower threshold or hurdle for the broker to get over to sell you something you're comfortable with, already familiar with, as opposed to bring you up to speed on a property type that historically has performed better, but you know little or nothing about. So we would actually go out of our way to encourage people, say, look, you still own a buttload of real estate here in the Portland metro area. Technical term. In the Portland metro area, why don't you consider diversifying a bit geographically? With DSTs, you don't have to be the Lone Ranger if you've been hearing good things about Austin, Texas, or Nashville, or South Florida before the entire world decided to move there. You can take advantage of a large institutional player that already has a footprint there, that already knows the market, and has significant management resources. So we always encourage people to diversify, given what's been happening on the West Coast in terms of the unrelenting, just the grind of progressive government grinding down landlords. We don't have to encourage people. We don't have to sell that very hard. People want to get out.
Got it. Got it. So I have to tell you that the person that always works to do her best to make us look good is my daughter Celia, who actually does what she got her major in, which is a pretty novel idea. So I always joke that Cece's got the hardest job in the world to make her dad look good. But just before that segment started, I said, "Hey, this is what we want to talk about this segment." She started laughing, so she knew better than we did that this was going to go too long. So we try to keep the segment short. We're going to stop this segment here. We're going to come back and talk a little bit, compare and contrast institutional ticks and DSTs, and we'll talk a little bit about some other product, the QOZOZ stuff too. But I just don't want to have you hanging out for 25, 30, 40 minutes on one segment here going, hey, he said you were going to talk about this. So David Moore, Equity Advantage, and Robert Smith, Peregrine Private Capital. We will be right back. Thank you.